Emmerich's finished development on that battle gear of his. Get back to Mother Base. The battle gear is an armored weapon developed to take on hostile bipedal weapon systems. But unlike the Soviet-funded Walker gear, the battle gear still hasn't been properly field tested. I'd like to assign a combat unit to take it on dispatch missions, so that we can evaluate its capabilities and reliability. Assuming you've got no objections, give the order to dispatch the unit from your iDroid.
So yeah, this is a bit of a weird thing. This music I'm playing in the background, like they play it for a little bit for that previous cutscene, but the battle gear, the way the game hypes it up with multiple cutscenes about approving it, developing it, the multiple stages being developed in interviews, they've even said this, the battle gear was originally meant to be another vehicle you could bring into the open world. You'd be able to drive this around and fuck shit up. And this music I have playing in the video right now was like the music for the battle gear. And then they decided, very far into developing this thing, to the point where it was like playable and in-game and stuff, they decided it was super unbalanced and they cut it.
You don't fucking say!
Yeah.
Look at that shit!
So, while they still hype up the battle gear in the same way, it's actually...
The mocap here is from a developer trying to figure out how much GP that this should cost to take on a mission.
But yeah, so the battle gear actually works the same way Zeke did in Peace Walker, where you can't pilot it or anything, but you can send it out as another unit in your dispatch missions.
Boss, we need evidence to prove our suspicions about Emmerich. Head to the central base camp in Afghanistan and recover that AI pod. It's time we purge Diamond Dogs of that traitorous parasite once and for all.
I'm sad that you can't pilot a thing, and I'm sad there isn't at least leftover stuff to, like, mod it back in.
Yeah.
If it was apparently so playable.
We've inoculated the staff with Walbachia to keep them from becoming symptomatic.
That should also contain the infection.
How did this happen in the first place? It has to have been a Cypher spy within our ranks.
If this is so, then why the Kakongo strain? If their intent was to wipe you out.
Skullface said the remaining English parasite was close to the boss. If this latest strain was his doing, he wouldn't have tipped his hand.
It is possible someone brought eggs onto the base without knowing. Stuck to their shoes, clothing.
Well, that makes the most sense to me. And where did the eggs come from?
You mentioned that your boss visited Nzoya Badiopulu.
Sure, but his gear's disinfected immediately upon return.
Then he was not the carrier.
And not just the boss. All staff dispatched to high-risk regions were quarantined on the flight back. When the symptoms first appeared, we checked and disinfected all equipment used up to that point. Any and all prisoners, soldiers, materials, and animals extracted during missions were also quarantined. So, that just leaves...
I have seen children around here. Where are they from?
All over. Some were being held hostage at a mine. Then there were the troublemakers at Wala Yamasa.
Wala Yamasa.
Yeah.
Their clothes, their things. Did you burn them?
They're just kids. We couldn't. And besides, not one of them's shown symptoms.
The parasites don't infect prepubescent hosts. Their vocal cords are not fully developed.
Well, if infection doesn't occur in children...
It is possible they carried eggs on their clothes, and the infection spread from them.
Check the kid's stuff.
I doubt there is any trace left by now.
But if there is, some of those kids must be close to hitting puberty. How could we have missed this?
There you
All
go.
right. I cannot wait to see the health class they teach on Mother Base.
Yeah.
Your changing body. You might notice your voice is starting to crack, and then you die. Then you die.
Yeah. Can't really do with anything with Xylanthropus. He just looks cool.
And the battle gear, I guess.
Yeah.
They're friends.
So that tape we just listened to, you know, there's that little bit of dialogue that they say like, oh, Skullface said the last English strain was close to you. This cassette tape accidentally unlocks the mission before any of that stuff is learned about. So it kind of accidentally, like, I listened to this in my first playthrough, and they were like, English strain? What are they? Huh? And so it was just like, it's just a little accident that cassette comes a little too early.
Nuts.
By the way, I've been avoiding, god damn it, I've been avoiding doing this target practice on the R&D strut. Because I mentioned before, the R&D strut is a fucking nightmare to navigate. It's super confusing. There are, like, multiple different sets of staircases, but there's only one that actually takes you all the way up to the very top of the base. Everything else just, like, terminates halfway up for no reason.
They say the original R&D professional was dataless, so there you go.
And there's just so much it's so vertical, and there's so much shit and, like, alternate secret pathways with vents and shit. It's so fucking hard to not get lost in this strut and also remember where you have and have not been. Like,
And can we paint these targets sort of a fluorescent yellow or pink or something?
like, this isn't really target practice because there's no, like, precision needed. It's like fucking hide and seek with these things. I had to redo this challenge for recording for this LP like 4 fucking times, and that was me with a walkthrough video open, so I knew exactly where all of them were. It's so easy to, like, get to the very bottom of the strut and, like, right? They're over here too. It's so easy to get to the very bottom of the strut and be missing 1 or 2, and then going like, ah, fuck, where the hell are they? And you'll have no, like, you need all 3.5 minutes to, like, do this one.
They're researching new ways to hide things and developing a frustration in the boss.
I guess so. I'm glad you can punch these at least.
Yes, very good. Good punching. Now use the arm of Jehuti to just grab all 35.
Oh, man.
Put them in one stack and then one punch.
The rocket arm at least does break targets.
Hey!
Thank you for stopping the infection, boss.
Excuse me.
Boss!
I'm doing something very important right now. I'm shooting the targets you specifically put up for me because I asked for it.
Hey, would you mind though just shooting some of the targets on the left? I'll take the right.
Yeah, it's co-op.
But I'll take a 10-second penalty if you get rid of 5 targets.
Whoop, sneaky. Like, I'm so paranoid about these fucking things. Like, at this point, I probably could go down, but there's always a chance that there's one that I missed.
And every, like, lamp that's sticking out the side kind of looks like it might be as you're passing by.
I mean, I have also personally made the mistake of painting my base, like, gunmetal gray.
Yes, I wasn't going to point it out.
Yeah,
But
this is partially my fault, but,
one to go.
Yep.
Who is the most tactical boy?
It's me. Yeah, that is the hardest target practice. It's super frustrating and I hate it.
Roger. This is B-Quad. Arriving shortly at LZ.
Whatever supplies you need, just let us know, boss.
Some more bullets.
Yeah.
I shot 40 of them, at least.
By the way, I haven't done it yet, but you can get a game over on Mother Base either by jumping off the side of the base or by throwing your soldiers off the side of the base.
What?
Yeah, if you kill your soldiers...
It seems like they'd love that.
Yeah, if you kill your soldiers by throwing them off or running them over with a car or something, yeah, they, you get a game over.
They believe in you so much, but they'll mutiny over one little murder.
Right? They love getting punched across the jaw.
Yeah. They're ready to tear down the entire world order and make a worse one just because they like you so much.
We love you, boss.
HBD.
Yep. Another thing I've been holding off on doing is if you have save data from Ground Zeroes, you can transfer it over to the Phantom Pain, and it'll unlock some extra stuff for you. Specifically, it unlocks the ability to develop the PS1 Solid Snake outfit, a bionic arm that has no special abilities but is gold, and you can also develop the Peace Walker era sneaking suit.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one's pretty nice. Yeah, we'll switch to that suit. So a weird thing with the way the story progresses in Chapter 2 isn't... Like, we have to go get the AI pod, which we'll be doing next episode.
Okay.
But also, quiet, you have to stop being bloody, please.
And we just did this whole thing about disinfecting.
Yeah. The AI pod mission is actually just a side op. And like there's some times where like you finish the next story mission and the next one doesn't unlock, and it's because like time has to pass and you either have to complete 2 story missions of any type, even if they're replaying missions, or 2 side ops before the next one becomes available. So like those other main story missions that become available, they're just like early missions that are on different difficulties. You don't actually have to complete those to advance the story.
But you could. They would be natural choices to advance the story.
I will not be playing those for this LP because I wanted it to... It's already super long. We're not replaying earlier missions. So like, I'll just be doing side ops and all the other side shit there is.
This is Yellowcake that Cypher was having the PF's transport. Before we met you, the boss recovered it from a truck crossing the savannah. Are there metallic archaea inside it?
Yes, the archaea metabolize uranium-235 to subsist. They must be stored inside Yellowcake, or they cannot survive.
So those biological traces we took for impurities were actually the real cargo.
Of course, they are deactivated, so they do not trigger a sudden enrichment. They are like baker's yeast. Yet, they do gradually enrich the uranium as they feed. I imagine you detected weapons-grade traces.
Yeah, we did.
And the malachite that was loaded on the truck had traces of uranium in it, too. So that's the flower, huh? Skullface was gonna sell do-it-yourself nuke kits. The uranium-enriching archaea complete with the user's manual. And the ores with the uranium could be sourced by the client or provided by Cypher.
Even the trace amounts buried in common ores can be enriched to weapons-grade uranium by the metallic archaea. Proving that must have been the most important factor of the trials. That and the ability to successfully prevent detonation.
So if the amounts of uranium in the ores are low enough, they can get past any inspection. And you only need a tiny amount of the archaea to act as the yeast. No great challenge to smuggle that either. The first step towards saturating the world with nukes.
His plan. That was not my intention. My only goal in developing the metallic archaea was to save the Dene.
What made you think a tool for creating undetectable nuclear weapons would save your people?
After 70 years, the Dene reclaimed the Navajo Nation from which we were banished. We bore all the hardships of poverty, but we were proud to live off the land we called our own. But in the moment the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, everything changed.
I don't get it.
The nuclear arms race between the US and the Soviet Union began with the end of the Second World War. Suddenly, there was a massive demand for uranium. And it was our ill fortune that the ground beneath the Navajo Nation was rich with uranium ore. The Black Ana government set up mine after mine, and many of the Dene worked them, never informed of any danger. Every day, they went to work with no protection. The slag was simply piled out in the open. When rain fell, uranium traces left behind would seep out, and when the ground dried, it was blown about as dust. Land and water were contaminated, irradiated. Many of us became sick and died. That pain lives on to this day.
I had no idea.
Wanting more than anything to revive the land my forebears left to me, I was delighted upon discovering microbes that eat uranium. If they could be domesticated, I believed we could rid our land of uranium.
Were you successful?
No. The research called for funding on a colossal scale. But nobody was willing to invest with no prospect of a return.
And that's when Skullface showed up.
Correct. I can save you and your people. We share the same will. That is what he said to me. And I believed him. Black Ana forced me to abandon my uranium cleanup work and focus on nuclear weapons. And he held all the Dene hostage. Today, the uranium mines within the reservation are finally closing down. It is simply less expensive now to source uranium overseas.
New victims, different places.
But uranium is a tactical resource. To rely on a foreign country for it is a difficult decision to make. And he was in the perfect place to influence that decision.
He could have condemned your people to the mines forever.
The contamination comes not only from uranium. The fallout from the Nevada nuclear tests also settled on our lands. As if our fortune were not already bad enough, we are also downwinders. To save the Dene, I must complete my original research.
Not that I don't have anything to say or I'm being especially respectful. It's just that whenever I learn about a new aspect of the American government's campaign of genocide against native peoples, my ears perk up. That's something that,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when I listened to this the first time, I was like, that totally feels like a true thing, and like, literally all I did was just type in, like, fucking Navajo uranium, and, like, that's the first thing that comes up, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fucked up, though.
Yeah.
You gotta extract him.
Anyways, I'm gonna strap balloons to everyone's ass. Doing a little bit of other open world stuff. We got more Lost Mother Base soldiers to get. This is also just the cassette tape episode, because at this point there are so many. We have to listen to them like now, or else we will be piled under a mountain of even more cassette tapes by the next episode.
The Hamburgers of Kazuhira Miller.
Oh.
If you're taking requests.
Skullface has finally burned out. The world is rid of his existence at last.
Was he still alive?
You could say that. But you could also say he'd been dead for decades.
What's that supposed to mean?
Biologically speaking, it's hard to say how much was his life.
Side effects from the treatment?
No, the primary effect. Keeping a dying host alive as long as possible. That is the whole point. But in the end, he grew too dependent on his children. As if he had any other way to keep on living. He first underwent parasite therapy before the Soviet Union became his home. His body was horribly burned. Fire washed across his thin young frame and stole his skin and his throat, even his lungs. Only through repeated therapies could the parasites keep him alive. Most of his life became something the parasites gave to him.
And then he lost the ability to die.
That is correct. The parasites live on past the host's death, still aiding cell composition. At that stage, there is no way to extract them from the host cells. There is no way of knowing when the last cell of Skullface's body would die. The only choice was to burn the whole thing. And his children, along with it. And I am one to talk. When my life is snuffed out, I expect you to treat my body the same way. And when I burn, I will truly be one with my children for the first time. You say there were 3 English vocal parasites.
According to Skullface, yeah.
Skullface had 2 of the English strain with him. You burned both of them.
There was an oil fire. I tossed him in.
So that just leaves 1. And you tell me Skullface said he used it.
He said it was very close to me.
Very close. One of your comrades. Or someone ordered to kill you. Or he could have been speaking metaphorically.
Metaphorically?
Close to your spirit. Close to your heart. Someone who either loves you or despises you.
The second one makes a long list.
Whichever it is, act with caution. Skullface implanted someone with the English language strain. Who it is irrelevant.
Why?
I tell you what Skullface really meant. Very close to you means you will be exposed. All the infected here have been given the Wolbachia. Even if the vocal cord parasites infect them now, they cannot reproduce. But if there's a different host among us, host to the English strain.
If that were the case, we'd see the symptoms.
What about the non-English speakers?
We have plenty of those, but the staff use English as a common language.
But if that someone has not spoken English yet, and begins to speak it now,
there'd be another outbreak.
The final mating pair of the English strain must be found immediately. Skullface is gone, but his threat still remains on this base. Do you see what the final mating pair is? With him dead, those parasites are the stain he wished to leave upon the world. His thirst for vengeance. In their flesh. Think. Does anyone here bear a grudge against you? Who would target you, specifically?
The ethnic cleansers that Code Talker mentioned, they weren't Skullface's true goal. All we have is circumstantial evidence, but here's my theory. It was Cypher who started developing the vocal cord parasites as bioweapons, parasitic weapons, and Africa was the testing ground for them. As Code Talker said, their purpose is the ethnic cleansing of only those who speak a particular language. So they could do a weapon of mass destruction to eradicate specific groups, races, ethnicities, or colonies by the language they speak. Or a kind of absolute language control. Or maybe a tool for those arrogant fools to build some misguided utopia. I could see plenty of uses for them. However, in practical terms, they wouldn't be as dangerous as you'd think. Counteracting the parasites is easy, after all. Cut them out of your throat to save your life, or just don't talk. That also prevents the infection from spreading. So if the international community were to find out about them, they'd no longer be the threat they were conceived to be. In which case, their targets would be limited to minority groups as a deterrent or a terrorist tool. It's hard to imagine Cypher developing something like that as a main weapon for their arsenal. That leads me to think we've only tugged on one little thread in Cypher's grand tapestry. An obscure corner of their work, possibly forgotten altogether. In any case, things changed. When Skullface was forced to relocate to Africa and he saw that thread dangling. All the time he continued that research, he was secretly following his own agenda. The ethnic liberator parasites, his English language strain. Skullface said there were only 3 samples of the English language strain parasite, and I think we can believe him. Bringing his ethnic liberator's plan to fruition depended on creating an English version of the vocal cord parasites at all costs. But an English strain would have been useless to Cypher. Worse, it could have destroyed everything they'd built. It was the one type they couldn't allow. That means Skullface was forced to develop his English strain out of sight of Cypher's network. Naturally, he couldn't use the greenhouse facility Cypher had set up and filled with guinea pigs. Skullface must have found some secret place to create his precious few English parasites, hiding all evidence like a man cheating on his wife. Somewhere, an entirely standalone environment. And when his plan entered its final phase, he must have made the place disappear. Some little room, could be anywhere, but now nowhere at all. We'll never know where he did it, but to elude Cypher's surveillance, it couldn't have been big. I believe Skullface was telling the truth. There were only ever 3 samples of the English language strain. Why activate Sahelanthropus in Afghanistan? This is how Skullface wanted things to play.
So all those radio broadcasts fed the everything but English strain. What do you think was the English they used to create the English strain? I mean, this is the early 80s. Soap operas are still at their height. That's 4 hours of English a day, just American soap operas.
I mean, there's evil twins in Metal Gear, so that works.
There's evil twins, secret triplets.
Yeah.
They always go that extra mile.
Yeah. I mean, Big Boss supposedly died in a fire in Metal Gear Solid 4. His corpse, barely living corpse, got thrown into a fire, and then he was alive at the end.
After supposedly dying in Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. The fake death I remember from soap operas, because my grandma would watch them when I was at her house all the time, was specifically somebody coming back from like a year later after being impaled with a pitchfork in a farmhouse.
That'll do it.
And they came back from that one though. Oh, there he is. Quiet, I'm tired. Do it for me. Thanks.
The end. Oh, we got an eager new recruit,
Yeah.
huh?
He's pumped.
He's coming too. Roger that.
Well, yeah, you could hardly say no to him after that.
Roger.
Of course he's coming. He's so excited.
Also, I should bring up that we've been using Clyde enough that the bond meter with her is going up even more. So now, finally, we've had that option just to call out Quiet's name, and she just doesn't do anything. But now, if we do it, she'll actually look at us, and she'll give us a thumbs
Quiet.
up.
All right.
Yeah.
Please don't speak English.
Yeah, that would be really bad.
Please.
Can you just write? Just write. Write us a note.
This is B-Quad. Arriving shortly.
It's the wrist parasites.
Draw something.
Charades.
The charades parasite. Blink 1 for yes, twice for no.
It's a good thing there's no humming parasites.
Yeah, thank God.
Gaining altitude.
Look, I'm just saying there's still ways to communicate with me, Quiet. Come on.
All right, she's going to kill you by uttering the simple English phrase, "I love you."
Oh no! That would be a very Kojima thing, though.